Hello, this is Megan at Cleveland Health and Wellness Center. I'm here with Tim Campbell, one of our therapists, for our Flip the Script interview. Tim received a bachelor's in criminology and a master's degree in mental health clinical counseling, focusing on work with children and adolescent therapy. He has worked in diverse settings, including residential care, crisis agencies, outpatient facilities, and university programs. He specializes in trauma work and is trained in EMDR and CPT, and is also a certified expressive arts therapist. Tim employs an integrative therapeutic approach, focusing on a person's mind, body, and what brings them a sense of connection to their world. Tim, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Our first question for you is, when did you initially realize that you wanted to be a therapist?
Mm, I had to sit back and think of this one. And I think if you would have asked me in 2014 when I graduated with my undergrad that I would be a therapist, I don't think I even considered that route, honestly. I wanted to work in the government, and with it, I worked for Children's Services for a period of time. And it was my director that actually told me that while I was doing great work, I was acting like a therapist. And so she actually kind of, with that kind of sense of immediacy, brought a sense of challenge to like the way that I was perceiving things and interacting with individuals. And so I did some research on counseling and it really fit me a lot more as a human being. So with investigations, it was a lot of assessments and then transferring it on for a disposition. But I love supporting people throughout their process as long as they're willing to have me and be there till the end if possible. And so after her recommendation and my research, I went back to school and got my counseling degree.
That's really interesting. Thank you. What populations do you enjoy working with?
I enjoy most working with adolescents, teenagers, and like emerging adults. I look at that as the season of life when you have been given like a foundation from like your family and that childhood development piece has kind of already been set. Now it's at the point where the individual's starting to like construct their own world. They're starting to explore their own values, what they want in their life, and the meaning they want to bring to their being. And so I really appreciate like that explorative mind of that age population, even into like being an emerging adult or young adult. Like you finish school or you transition at like 18 and you're supposed to be an adult, but you don't have everything figured out and you're still exploring and figuring that out. So just love that population.
Definitely. Can you talk a little bit about the treatment modalities that you draw from in your work?
Yeah, so I do a little bit of an eclectic integrative approach. And so with it, my foundations are going to be cognitive behavioral therapy is where I started for sure. And like solution focused approaches. So trying to keep it brief and very like directed towards the goals. But as I once I graduated and started exploring additional modalities, that's when I got trained in EMDR and CPT, so cognitive processing therapy. And so I do work heavily with trauma, be it like developmental trauma or specific populations of trauma. And with it, those approaches take a little bit of more of a holistic approach, which really align with me as a person because you're not just looking at like the mind's construct and like thought patterns, you're also looking at behaviors, you're looking at environmental components, you're looking at basic needs of like sleeping and eating and dietary components of things. So I do have that foundational like cognitive piece. However, I do incorporate all those other elements of being like the person's behavioral patterns, the environment they live in, their basic routines. And then the last one, that sense of connection that I talk about is really that sense of like value or purpose for a person, to really kind of explore and assess the whole individual is how I kind of conceptualize things.
Will you tell us a little bit about your unique strengths as a therapist?
Hmm. Um, Two strengths that I have that kind of play off of each other, in my opinion. One, I do fairly well at building like that relationship with another person because I show up authentically as myself at the start of sessions to begin with. Um, after the intake, I actually just spend a whole session getting to know a person because there's so much more than whatever they're presenting with. And so with it, I also take the time to tell them who I am as a person and how I show up in the world and in the room and how I can be a support. So I really work to build that therapeutic piece. And then the other component that goes hand in hand with that is my sense of creativity. I consider myself a creative spirit in numerous aspects of my life. And I look at people very similar. Like no two individuals in the world are going to be the same in my eyes. Therefore, no two people will I treat in the exact same manner. I am the clinician that, yes, I have this foundational toolbox of resources and skills and concepts to help them like explore and grow. But I'm not going to say that what I teach you is the right way. So I tell people you like take what works for you and then you leave what doesn't. And we're going to reinforce the things that are working and helping you grow as a person. And if it doesn't, that is okay because it doesn't have to work for everyone. So I think my rapport building and like I said, my sense of creativity showing up in the room are like two really strong areas for me.
Very individualized work.
Yeah.
And our fun question, how do you manage stress in your life?
Stress in my life is managed in two ways. The first is that it like just acknowledging that I'm stressed is a huge piece of it. I can't be like if I'm suppressing it and holding it down, it'll always build up. So just acknowledging like I'm human, it is okay to have those stressful moments. Like it is going to be okay and to grieve that like stress and ride it for a minute. But then I switch and I engage in a lot of creativity. Like I said, that's like my background. So you can find me getting creative in nature. Like I love going for hikes and walks. I will create anything. Like I will paint. I will draw. I will dance. I'm also trained in movement therapy and somatic work, and I'm a dance teacher on the side. So my kids, even though they can stress me out, I also love them with my whole soul. And just being able to teach is a stress reliever for me. Um, I play music. I love music. I grew up listening to it. That's like one of my childhood favorite memories is my mom having like a record player. So like music has a sweet spot in my heart. Um, so many different layers. And then just like time for self-care. I love taking like one day a month to just be. Turn my phone off. I will do whatever I want. If it's a book, if it's a bath, I will just like focus on myself just so that I can continue to pour into other people and support them.
Definitely some time for yourself.
Mhm.
And our final question for you today is what makes therapy effective and who can benefit from therapy?
Mm. I think what makes therapy effective, I'll start with that one, is two parts. The first is more most important, and then there's a second one that follows up with it. The first being the person's desire for change or wanting to grow. That is something that no matter how much I give resources or I support and encourage, the other person on some level has to take ownership and want to do the work for themselves. So I say the key piece and foundation is, are you willing to go on the journey with me? And then the second part with that is how is our relationship, which is why I spend so much time doing that work because I describe it when I get to end a treatment with people. Sometimes I'll meet with them. Say I met with someone 24 times. That is in reality, if we're meeting for roughly an hour, that is less than a day's work together. But their change is truly the work that they've done individually on their own independently. And so I really like to reinforce that and encourage them like, you did this work. I gave you the space, I gave you the support, I gave you the skills, but you put forth that effort. And so I think that is a huge piece to making change, their effort and then our relationship. As far as who can benefit from therapy, I think everyone honestly can. And I also say that therapy is individualized and it's also okay if you don't always align with your therapist too, because there are multiple people out there in the world that you can connect with, and everyone has their own different approach. So I love with telehealth therapy, something that I really enjoy doing, is people just have to log in. I have all the PDFs on board. I don't have to print out papers. I can send it to you in an email. I can do all of my EMDR work on the screen. Like all you have to do is show up. And with it, if you show up, we can definitely do some amazing work together. And sometimes I say people don't even need to do like venting work or deep processing work. They just want someone to hear them out. And so that's why I said like anyone can benefit from therapy because if you just need a supportive space in your journey, that can be provided too. We can celebrate both the highs, acknowledge the lows when they're there, and just exist as human beings, sharing space in this world that we're in. So that's why I say everyone can kind of benefit from therapy.
Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. And I'm glad that we got to know you a little bit better.
Thank you so much.